Hi, welcome to a packed tutorial full of everything I know about crew colours, from the simple basics through to more advanced features to different finishes, and especially a chapter on why it's not quite possible to always nail those colours and perhaps when you should decide enough is enough. And I think everybody will enjoy that bit, even if they understand the basics. Do make use of the chapter marks. Now I'm going to do this as questions and answers. So number one, what is a crew colour? Well, it's any colour, like the one you see here on this P72, that the game does not already provide. Now, each crew can have a crew colour, but you can keep changing it, so don't worry there. Now, of course, many people say, but I like my current crew, I don't want to leave it. And you don't have to leave it, you can be in up to 5 at once. So you can simply make up a one-person crew that you're the crew leader of, and just keep changing colours. So, as I already alluded to, you can have as many crew colours as you like. Look at this floor here. At least 3 of the cars I can see right now have a crew colour on them. So you can just keep changing the colour, and that colour will stay with you even if you change crew. What the heck's a hex? That's the only joke in the whole thing. All colours can be defined as a mix of red, green and blue, as shown on here. And the hex is just another way of writing down red, green and blue. It's done in a 6-digit form. It uses normal numbers and hexadecimal numbers. This web page here that explains a lot more, if anybody's interested, is linked down below. So where can you get hexes? Well, there's loads of places really. Just general web searches will often produce one. Every garage tour I do like this, or every build where I use a crew colour, I will give the hex. And a massive shout out to gtacolors.com. It's absolutely full of hexes and suggested pearls, like this Bentley here. There's the hex, there's the pearl. It's not always perfect, but generally it is very good. And you can search by manufacturer, or you can search by colour, for example, purples, and just see what's available. We must be very grateful for the site is no longer under development, but somebody is paying to keep it hosted. I just think that's fantastic. How to use a hex? Well, you need to go to your crew page to input the hex. If you've not got that saved, easiest to go to the address shown here, socialclubrockstargames.com. Click on your name and go down to crews. Once you're in the crews, find these 3 little dots and hit edit crew. This is your page, and you should bookmark this because hopefully you're going to use it a lot. Now you can see a crew colour is in here already. I'll just expand it. That's the colour for the Tryon Nemesis, which I built recently. It's a very bright orange colour. There's a build video for that car. So that's in there as hashtag 6-digit hex. And if ever you get a 6-digit hex, well, you're in luck. You literally just type it in. But before we get there, you see you can also use the colour palette here in a very similar way to Photoshop and just chance your arm at finding a colour. It's quite hard, but you never know. Anyway, I'm putting in here the code for a recent very orange Rolls-Royce Cullinan build I did. And you just put it in, go to the bottom and save the crew, and it's done. And I advise waiting maybe a minute or 2 before going back in the game, because occasionally, if you're too quick, your GTA Online file doesn't save in time and you get this alert. And if you get that, you have to wait about 4 or 5 hours till an internal backup at Rockstar sorts it out. So take your time. Now, I have another code I'm going to put in here, and this is for the green P72 you saw. So there's the hashtag on the screen. But when I paste it in, I get a completely different number. It's just because this system cannot take in every hex available, and it sort of defaults to certain ones. I don't know if they're ones that Rockstar prefer. But you can fool the system. So if you right click on the color swatch itself and say inspect, and I should add this is in Google Chrome. So it may be different in your browser, but you can always put Chrome in just to follow along. A few lines below the selected line, you'll see the hex value here, which is the one that it substituted for our desired one. So first thing to do is type or paste in your desired number again. But you're going to have to add 2 letters at the end in order that the system accepts it. You can try FF, and this one often works. So FF is my preferred number to add, but also 00, EE, or AA will all work. So I'm going to try then typing in here FF, and then I'll scroll to the bottom of the page and I'll hit save. And it says, sorry, your chosen color is not supported. Okay. Undeterred, we'll go back in again and we'll type in AA, go back down. Same result, it's still not supported. Okay, third time lucky, let's put in 0, 0 and save this. Fantastic. Our crew color is now saved and we can go into the game and use it. It won't show here. If I refresh the page, you get this checkerboard. Think of that as the finishing flag. You've won, you've got your code in, even though we can't show it to you. And if you inspect again, you'll see it there. Take a note of this now, copy and paste it into some form of document. I use a spreadsheet for all my garages. You worked hard to get this code, so make sure to keep it. What does it cost to put in? Well, if you go to your auto shop, as you can see here, I push crew color for this Mansory Ferrari. It's free, fantastic, and everything's 5% off in the auto shop. But here in the agency, it's $25,000. So always use your auto shop for putting on crew colors or crew emblems. On then to a couple of really very useful tips and tricks. Some codes that you may as well memorize. Pure black is all the zeros, the absence of color, with FF at the end, and pure white is all the Fs, which means all the colors, and 0, 0 at the end. Pure black is blacker than the classic black in the game, and pure white is whiter than ice white. Now, there's a couple of good reasons to know these. Well, number one is that just pure white, as used on this race car, does actually look better than normal white. So if you have the time, it's nice to do on a white car, and ditto on a black car. But there's another more important reason. As I change colours here, you can see that the livery on this car is part white here. Then we have the coloured stripes, and then we have the white writing here. Those white bits are in pure white. And if we were just to paint ice white, well, look at the difference between the two whites. And I can still see the writing, so it looks a bit, well, pants basically. And frost white, as you saw, was even worse because frost white is a sort of blue. So if I can paint the car in this pure white, presumably the writing and everything will disappear and it will all end up looking perfect. And of course it does, and there it is now. So this is basically a livery trick, and this is probably the best example I've done. This build is certainly available in the Let's Build series. Building a Porsche GT2 RS, and I really wanted to build it, but the livery wasn't there. Anyway, I went to this website, and it's hugely valuable, and the link is below, and I got the red for the Red Fister track graphics, and this website has nearly all of the colours for the liveries. I then put the carbon bits on the car, as you can see, along with that particular livery. And at the moment, of course, it looks absolutely terrible. But remember, we're going to match that red on all those white parts of the car, and all that livery, which by the way is based on a real one, is going to disappear. Bingo! There we are. There's the photo, there's the real thing. We just made our GT2 RS in Guards Red. Obviously I can't change the car colour, and it looks fantastic. So this crew colours to match liveries is an amazing trick, and it can effectively give you new liveries on some cars. If you're on PC, if not, you may as well skip this bit. You can make a matte or a satin version of a crew colour. So here's a car from the street, and there's sort of two parts to this. Number one is to first paint the car in the cheapest matte paint you can find, which I think is always light grey, and then to paint the car in the crew colour. And at this point it appears you've achieved nothing because it's shiny, but all you actually have to do is exit the game to single player and then come back in. And when you come back in, bingo, the car is now matte. I don't know why this works, but just adding matte before the crew colour is enough. So when you've done this, you don't have to go to Los Santos Customs and flick through number plates and everything like the good old trick with standard colours. No, you can just come back in and you can add a pearl. So perhaps a light coloured pearl like cream or something. And there we are, a satin colour. If you can't obtain a hex from somebody giving you one, then GTAcolors.com comes to the rescue again because it has a brilliant system for helping you sample the color from a photo. Don't use the color swatcher on the manufacturer's website. I've done this thinking I'm going to get a color bang on, and they're often not right on the website. So get a real photo of the car and drag it in. Try and find a photo that you think is in sensible neutral light that you do think represents the car. Now, all you have to do is hover your mouse over the best part of the car, and you'll see on the left here the hex, along with the RGB or the HSV values even, and on the right a darker version of the same thing. And the reason is that you have to put a darker version into the crew page, otherwise your color will be too light. I have no idea why. So the real trick is to find a representative part of the car once you've found that representative photo, not a reflection, not a shadow, not a highlight. Then you simply have your hex code and you input it as per the previous chapter. The third symbol down on the left allows you to basically play with the paint palette a bit like Photoshop and paint things onto a car to get an idea what they might look like. And it's certainly a worthwhile tool to play with. I don't really use it that much. Now, if that website were to become unavailable, you would need another way of doing the same task. So Image Color Picker is great for uploading images from a URL or drag and drop, and just use the very same methodology to get your hex. And then to get the darker version to feed into Rockstar, go to Hex Color Tool, which is also linked below. And this is also a good place, by the way, to make slight adjustments to a color. Click the Darken button in units of 10% and pick the one that's 20% darker. So either method works perfectly well, but obviously it's simpler to use gtacolors.com whilst that site is still up and working. Getting the right pearl is very important. On dark color cars, it can really change the color of the car. And even on medium and light colored cars, we need to get it right. And what I suggest you do is look at the photo of the real car, see what color the highlights are reflecting, and do your best to apply those. Very often it will just be a neutral one, such as black steel or dark steel, that you use. I have been told sometimes you didn't nail that color, or to be honest, I look at it myself and I'm like, I didn't nail that color. Let's look at the Audi R8 Green Hell here. There's an image search. I know some of these images are from computer games and things, but you can see just looking that some of those colors are close to the one I finally built. Some seem to be way off. It is very difficult because how can you sample a color if the photo itself isn't right? And why is the photo not right? Well, different cameras have different color sciences, they're called, and these affect the image even at the pixel level of the sensor. And they affect it even more so in how that camera is set to maybe turn it into a JPEG. And even if it's not turned into a JPEG, it's probably gone into an image editor like Adobe Camera Raw here. And you can see me just playing with the image of this car, correcting the white balance and so on. Well, I'm changing the color all the time I'm doing this. And then what about the light that the photograph was taken in? The sunset, the tungsten lights, and so on and so forth. So every photograph, the color is different. All you can do is pick a color that is as close as you can to what you think is the real photo and go from there. We also have, of course, the colors in the game. The game is very realistic with its weather, with its sunrises, sunsets, so on and so forth. So again, the car that you've built is going to look different in different game lights. So all in all, it's a bit of a challenge, to say the least. The Audi I showed, I think I got that about right, actually. But this Viper, the 1320 Video Street Racer, well, if I owned it and had it in my driveway and took a few photos, I'm sure I could get it pretty close. But I don't, and I relied on the photos where the pearl was quite neutral. But, you know, I saw other photos where the pearl was quite pink, and I've even put a shaft of purple pearl on now. So hopefully this does not come over as an excuse, but it is a bit of an inexact science. Yes, there's definitely trial and error in this. However hard you try to pick the right part of the right photograph, it can turn out to be unsatisfactory when you see the car in the daylight in the game. It takes 2 minutes on PC to go from 0 to fully in the game to apply this, so it can get quite soul destroying the time it takes going back and forward and back and forward. Now I can help with this just a little bit. There's a site called Color Blender, like all the sites, link is below, And it helps you find one or more midpoints between colours. So when you found that one is a bit too one way or one's a bit too much the other way, you can put them both in here. Like these two pinks I've put in, you can go in, find 1, 2, 3 midpoints. Have a look at those and maybe decide which one of those to try next. I have found this to be the best way to help me out when I'm down to a choice of two colours that are both not quite there. So we've said it's a little bit inexact as a science. There's a lot of judgment involved to get close to the colour. But when do you give up? When do you say enough is enough? Well, all the colours of the cars you're seeing here, which are little bits from my 2023 garage tour, these are all crude colours, including this lovely papaya orange, and they look fantastic. I'm sure the real truth is probably that none of them are quite there. Some really do look there, some probably look a touch off, but they all look lovely. I enjoyed my garage tour, so did everybody else. And of course, that's the answer. You stop when you are happy with what you've achieved, when you think it's close enough, and basically you can live with it. I no longer worry when I put a photo up next to a car that the colour doesn't quite match. It's never going to quite match due to all the things we talked about with cameras, lights in the game, lights for reality, and so on and so forth. If I'm happy, I show it. So there you have my summary of everything I know about crude colours, and any early videos I'll just simply put links going through to this one. So by now you know how I do what I do, and when I say enough is enough. Do you have any questions though? Is there anything you think I haven't covered? Because if so, please ask below. I'll make a follow-up video if it's major, or I'll just pop in a pinned comment with a reply if I don't think it deserves its own video. But either way, I want this to be a resource going forward that I can point everybody back to, or point to certain chapters when questions are asked. So let's get it as comprehensive as possible. I don't know if you watched the full 17 minutes of this. I mean, that's a long video, so I hope you made use of the chapter marks. If you liked what you did see, I would really appreciate a like. And if you like my attempts to make real cars in GTA, then please consider a subscription. But above all, thank you so much for watching.